Joining us in the last part of the news hour is Eric Miller, our, to put it mildly, wizard with all things YouTube and video, who has populated our YouTube channel, but who has also recently stood as candidate for candidate as a delegate for Bernie Sanders, and who has intentions of announcing a run for office quite soon, but who has also made a small study of reading about these 28 pages that have been in the news the last couple of days from the 9/11 report. So, Eric, why don't you come join me here on screen and let's talk about the 9/11 report, and you are more than welcome to plug your candidacy.
All right, yeah. In regards to the 9/11 report, I want to give kind of a little bit of recognition to Senator Bob Graham from Florida. Now, he was actually a member of the team that was commissioned to produce the 9/11 report, and he's been lobbying for years to get these 28 pages released, actually more than 28 pages. And he's been on every talk show. He's been going around any opportunity he could to bring awareness to the fact that there was a lot that we did not know. He actually speculated that the reason the United States held this report so close was because of our close relationship and our close ties with Saudi Arabia, and there was some speculation even that we were using this report as leverage with Saudi Arabia. The 28 pages being released comes shortly after a bill that was passed in the Senate this past May that actually made it a possibility for the families of 9/11 victims to sue Saudi Arabia over the attacks. Now, when we move into the actual information that the 28 pages provided, I think really it raises more questions than it gives us answers. It was heavily redacted. Some people are saying that the 28 pages were so redacted that it was only an equivalency to 3 pages of actual information. There's still multiple different investigative reports that would provide many more details about the hijackers and their relationships with Saudi Arabia, including a 9/11 Commission report that we did last year that was kind of a report about the original report. Also, there was a lot of classified documents from the raid of Osama bin Laden that were not released. We did release 200 pages, but there were many more that were not released, along with investigators who interviewed different terrorists at Guantanamo Bay that were linked to the 9/11 attacks, and those interviews were never released. Now, some of the juicy details that we did get was the role of Prince Bandar. He was a close George Bush advisor who paid almost $90,000 to Osama bin Laden, who was not only associate of the hijackers, but also a close friend to a man that was arrested for his role in the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. It also raises questions about the Saudi government using charities to launder money. And some people believe that these documents reveal a lack of counterterrorism cooperation from the Saudi government, specifically because of a memo that was included in the 28 pages that showed that Saudi Arabia told the United States specifically that they would not help and would not assist in us locating Osama bin Laden. Another person that people are questioning had ties with the Saudi government is Fahad al-Thumari. I apologize if I mispronounced that. He was a Saudi consular official based out of California at the time of the 9/11 attacks, and he was an imam at a mosque that was frequented by 2 of the hijackers. And we now have information that he apparently had assigned people to take care of some of the hijackers.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is indirect Saudi state sponsorship of radical mosques in the United States.
That's exactly.
And that these mosques are being used to radicalize the youth, the Islamic youth in America.
That's what the speculation is, and that's what these pages kind of bring the questions about. Now, what else I feel like raises more questions is the fact that Senator Graham was part of the commission that created these reports, and he is going out so heavily trying to get all this information released. So I really feel like that's a good indicator that there's some things that the American people deserve to know that still aren't released.
Okay, but I know that you also have some information on we shouldn't be fooled by thinking that the information is now out there, that now the 9/11 Commission report is done. Your research paper that I looked through very quickly suggested that there are hundreds of pages still missing. Can you go into detail about that?
Well, the pages that are missing, they come from a variety of different reports, and so the other big problem is the redaction of the pages that they did release. Like I was saying, it basically amounts to about 3 pages of information. Now, we're touting that it was 28 pages, but they were so heavily redacted that there really wasn't 28 pages of information released. With the commission, there's about 34 more pages that still haven't been released, as well as a variety of other reports about this report and other classified documents that we obtained during our raid of Osama bin Laden in 2011.
Okay, so what about the prisoners in Guantanamo? Aren't there also a lot of information to be had there from the so-called interrogation, I would call it torture, of the people at Guantanamo?
Absolutely, Nis. I mean, we're talking about 10 years of different interviews and investigations and interrogations of co-conspirators of the 9/11 attacks, and none of these investigations have been released to the public.
Okay, so when we're talking about 28 pages, we're actually talking about 3 pages, and what we in reality are talking about is the absence of several hundreds of pages when you look at all the information gathered, and that's not even covering whatever the NSA picks up whenever someone picks up a phone and says Islam. Okay, so wonderful. So is there any good news to be had from the release of these, let's call them the 3 pages of the 9/11 Commission report then? Is there any good news to be had here?
Well, I guess that's all kind of opinion, Nis. I guess for me, the good news is that there's a little bit more information for the families of the 9/11 victims. But honestly, man, it just feels like there's something that smells here.
Yeah. I remember as a young man, I watched the Michael Moore movie, Fahrenheit 9/11. I'm not going to go as far as to call it a real documentary in that word's original meaning, but in that movie, he has interviews with FBI special agents who were conducting the case, who were actually lamenting that the Saudi royal family, the entire Saudi royal family, the same day that the attacks happened, were the only ones who were allowed to use airplanes in the United States. And they were put on planes and sent back to Saudi Arabia very, very quickly. They did not have to in any way talk to anyone about the attacks. So I know from that, and I know from the papers that were released unredacted in this movie, that the Saudi family has been in the business of promoting the Bush family and helping them out, as well as what this paper, these papers now show us that they have also been in the business of funding mosques. And we're not talking about your local neighborhood mosque that is basically like your local neighborhood church. We're talking about mosques in which the imams are preaching extremism. Yeah. So let's hope someone acts on this.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the crazy shit that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump is talking about, us needing vigilante neighborhood watches walking around patrolling specifically Muslim neighborhoods. I'm talking about not letting the Saudi Arabian royal family have free reign with their money in the United States. So, Eric, any last words on this subject before we move into our second half?
I just want to say I completely agree with what you said about the royal family, and that is one thing that these pages did show, was the relationship, especially with Prince Bandar and his role with these attacks all the way back to the 1993 attack.